Okay, so now I've got the camera plugged in. I think this JVC one is going to be mainly used for inside, and I'll try and keep it plugged in so the battery doesn't go down on me. So, if you notice, even though my kitchen is small, you can still do this, okay? I don't want to hear, oh, my kitchen's small, I have no room. I got too much shit on my counters. Because you'll find a way if you really want to do it. Like I said, people, it's a dying art. So anyway, this is what I'm going to do to keep it simple on myself. Those ones are done. Now I'm going to get into the chicken. This is the one that was in the pot sitting on the stove for a couple of days. So, and I've got more, right? So what I'm going to do is I am going to can shredded kitchen. I'm going to just can my shredded kitchen. No, shredded chicken. I'm going to can shredded chicken in this size, which is a half pint, equal to this. They're both half pints. They're just done differently because normally these are done for fish. If you notice, it's pre-Fukushima. In other words, this salmon was canned before Fukushima in Japan blew its stack. So there's absolutely no radiation from Fukushima in this salmon, which was canned in my old canner September 16th, September 2016. You can see that. So maybe in the next couple, 2-3 weeks, I'll open up this can and I'll do a recipe around it and we'll taste it. So in the meantime, here, let me put this on myself. Because I gotta, well, I want to say a couple things. I can't, when it's facing this way, it looks like my old camera. But it records okay. So I think what's happening with this camera first is, you can set the speed of the filming. I'm not familiar with it, you know, the 1080 times whatever, and then one lower down, one lower down. I think it's set high, for high resolution, for better pictures, and because of that, it's maybe taking up more space in terms of energy and everything. I don't know why the battery is not retaining its energy, because it just doesn't. So that's not what the video is about. So the reason I'm going to do the chicken this way is for 2 reasons. One, I'm getting tired and I've got a lot of chicken to do. Right? Because I did what? I cooked up 8 chickens, right, people? So I got 8 chickens basically to can, with or without vegetables. So for this next batch, I'm going to do without vegetables. Keeping in mind, this is the reasoning behind it. I'm going to use this size jar. I'm going to do 12 to 24 jars. Probably 24 because I just kind of want to get it over with, because I have to get out into the yard and plant the plants, and you know, I got taxes to do, and I got to get up into the basement and just yada, right? So I want to keep it simple on myself, but I want something that, you know, we can probably use. And, you know, general rule of canning is either it's a condiment in terms of a relish, a pickle, that type of thing. Obviously fruits because of the sugars, right? Jams because of the sugars. When you get into meats, normally they recommend just the meat by itself without broth, right? In terms of either use water or use broth, salt or no salt, raw or cooked, preferably uncooked, and you don't really do anything with it. You don't do it like this normally. And then you take that jar and you complement it with something else. Well, that's what I'm going to be doing with this chicken. I'm going to cut it. I'm not going to shred it. I wouldn't really know what to use in the house right now for shredding. I don't have time, so I'm just going to cut it into very small pieces, or string it, or do something with it. I'm going to do something with it, people, as if it was from chicken from a can. And then what I'm going to do is I'm either going to use just straight up water with salt, or more than likely I'm going to use the broths, because I have broths in the fridge, right? And then when it comes time to open up the jar and cook it and eat it, For other people, when you go on, oh yeah, no, we do this and we do that, and well, if you notice, this jar is still sitting here since 2016. But that's the beauty of canning. This is what food security is supposed to represent. And I have a lot of these jars around the house from different time periods, right? This one has been sitting on my counter forever, just like these here, right? This one was done in 2018, and those are the sweet pickles. And then we've got still the raspberries from 2018. Okay, so I'm canning it for the purpose because, again, Amari is on my mind, okay? I've been thinking of trying to get into I came across a recipe where you cook a pork roast, you do something to it, and then I think you cook it again, you do something to it, and then you do something again to it, and then what happens is it becomes very, like, I don't know, like a pate. He likes liversworth, right? So if I can learn to make liversworth, that would be a good thing to learn too, right? So in terms of the chicken, what happens is when you can food, I mean, anytime it's a meat or a vegetable or whatever, they tell you to heat it for 10 minutes on a boil. So basically what you do is you bring it up to a boil, you turn it down to a low boil, like a simmer boil, right? Not a heavy, hard boil, because you'll just boil the shit out of it, right? And you just take a fork or whatever, and you lightly move it around in that boil as you bring it down to a nice, even simmer boil on it, right? But you don't stir it, because if you stir it, because the meat is so soft already from being canned, it will separate. Well, in terms of having it shredded, it's not going to really matter. So this is what I'm thinking. I'm going to shred them, and if I was to use them in a meal of any kind, how would I want to eat it? Because I want it cold, and I want it congealed. I want the juice to be congealed. So in that case, I would use the broth, because it will be the broth that will help to congeal the liquid if it was in a fridge. Not in a jar. The grease will just rise, but if you take that and you put it in the fridge, the juice will congeal. That's what, because it has the marrows and everything in it, right? That's what I want for Amari. So, hold on a minute. Okay, so what happened there is Amari has been actually communicating with Tisha and myself in terms of this is what happened today, because he needed to go to the bathroom, right? And so anyway, long story short, we have this little toity that we put him on, and today he never cried when he was on it. It's almost like he knew what it was. And then he was on it for like, maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. We don't leave him on it very long, right? We don't want to stress him out with it. And so, long story short, he peed in it, people. Yay! Amari peed in the toilet today, first time. Okay. And then, of course, he needs a little assistance with the poo part, right? Because it pools at the bottom of his butt. And it's uncomfortable and can be painful for him and frightening, so... Anyway, long story short, he's been trying on his own, so every now and then we try the squatting position, and Tisha's got it down pat. I says, well, whatever, you just move slow, take your time with it, give him time. Anyway, long story short, he actually worked with, I pointed it out to Tisha. I said, look how he's working with you on this one, Tisha. It's like he understands exactly what's going on, because as she was holding him, he wasn't crying, wasn't fussing. He was actually trying to poo, right? As Tisha was holding him in a squatting position versus having him on his back doing the bicycle things, right? Or whatever, right? And sure enough, within, 10 minutes, he actually had a poo. Working with Tisha, as if consciously he knew what he was doing, which I think he is starting to figure it out, people. Right? Because he can't talk like you and I, right? So, but that doesn't mean he's not learning things, right? So, what happened here with him fussing was, and he's moving around more too. I have him on his tummy in the living room playing, right? You can hear the toy there. But prior to that, he was in the living room, and he had rolled himself over, and I guess as through the process of all that, he had another little poo on his own, because Tisha's not here now, right? So either it hurt him, and as he was pooing it out, or who knows. Point is he called for help. I realized what he had done. He had pooed, so I changed him. And do you hear? I don't hear nothing. He's happy. As soon as I changed him, he was happy. In other words, he doesn't like a dirty diaper. So that's good. Ultimately, I'd like him to be, toilet trained, right, to the point where he can actually go to a toilet. But that's a while off. He did though pee on a potty today, as if he knew that's what the potty was for. So let's hope that he connects the dots and say, yay! And he worked with Tisha with the fact of the squatting position in order to be able to poo versus being on his back, right, with doing the bicycle legs and trying to help him that way. And it can get like to be a 7-hour chore. But today it was like I was aware that he was aware that he had to do his share in terms of pushing, because we encourage him to push, right? So, in light of that, back to what I'm trying to do here in terms of, okay, if I shred the cabbage, where did cabbage come from, people? If I shred the chicken, or cut it up into little bits and little squares or whatever it is, fill up these jars with broth that under normal circumstances, if it's rich, it would congeal in a fridge type setting, right? And then it becomes like completely different in terms of the way the body digests it, and because it's natural animal fats, that's what we want, right? So okay, I'll can it, and then I figure, well, I'm gonna have to come back in a couple 2-3 weeks, and then maybe try and do a video on let's eat some of this stuff, right? So what would I do with it, right? This is what I would do with it. This is what I'm going to try with it. This is why I'm going to can it today, because it's all about Amari, right? I'm canning these for Amari, okay? So I'm going to can these shredded chicken. In a couple of weeks after I get caught up with the planting and all that other stuff, I'll open up a jar. I'll show you how to warm it up. Bring it to a boil, turn it down to a low boil. Don't stir it, over stir, just gently stir. I'm going to cool it, and then I'm going to put it in a container, and I'm going to put it in a fridge. And then it should congeal, because one, you're boiling down the liquid a little bit, unless of course you add more. And you're just incorporating everything into the liquid itself, where it's just going to get richer to the point where it will congeal. And that's what I'm hoping for, because that is what I want to give Amari when I give him a meal. So in other words, if I, and also too, because it's cold, you can mix it up with fresh cucumbers and, that type of thing. Maybe, I have like, what is it here? See, I've been buying like these little things, like here, those are little sesame seeds. Got more sesame seeds there. I got a whole bunch of stuff over there, right? Pumpkin seeds, I see sunflower seeds in there. So, you could take, make a little cucumber salad for him with the softer part of the inside of the cucumber. You have to mash everything, right? Until we know that he can fully chew, which he can't fully do yet. So we got to help him with that. And then, you can grind up a bit of a pumpkin seed and have that sprinkled on top of the cucumber with nice congealed chicken on the side. Just think of if you like liver's worth, right? Well, he'll eat liver's worth. So I'm not trying to bring in a liver's worth, but this is like, I could see him eating that with a mashed up pickle beside it. That sounds good. Okay, so moving along, before I get too ahead of myself. So this is 2 chickens. I don't know. Can't remember if it was in the oven or if it was in the pot, right? But for now, I think this one was in the oven, the very last 2 that I put in the oven. So as you can see, I'm not shredding it. I'm just making it into small. I don't want to touch it because my hands are clean, right? I'm just making it like that. And then this is the rest of it. I am mixing, this is mostly white meat. So I don't know if I'm going to just chop that up and mix it all up. I'll probably just do it that way. It doesn't really matter, because darker the meat, the sweeter the meat, right? And also the more enriched it is. This is, there's the congeal the jelly, right, people? This is what we want. This is what where am I? This is what I'm trying to recreate in a jar. So because of that, I am adding the fat. Do you see that? That's the, like when you're baking it and it browns on top of the skin. It's already cut in there. You can see there's little bits and pieces of it. There it is. Do you see it? Right? That's on top of the breast. Right? That's that dill, whatever it got in there. Well, this is just off the legs and stuff. So after I cut all this, I'm going to cut that up real fine. Sorry for whipping the camera around. Cut that up real fine. Right? And then put it in there, stir it around, put it in jars. This here is after I pick through the chicken. Obviously, here's part of the neck. That's what I'll suck on later. I like that stuff. Right? This here, the cats and the raccoons just really enjoy. But before I give it to the raccoons and cats, what I'm going to do is, as I heat up my stock, right, I'm going to put this in a, I guess you can say a strainer. All of it. I'll put all of this and all of this into the strainer, and then I'm going to dip it into the hot stock so that I don't lose any of this jelly. Do you see that? Because that's what I'm trying to do for Amari. Okay. So hold on a minute. Okay, so it's like an assembly line here. This is what I did the other night after I cooked it, right? So this one's already been deboned. So I'm now just going to chop it up and put it in there, and I'm putting it back in the fridge. This is all the prep work, right? And then after I got everything all chopped up, ready to go, because I'm just going to can 24 cans anyway, right? That, half pint size with the broth. Nothing more, nothing less. And then we'll see what we have left. Hold on. Okay, as I'm cutting this chicken, I already got that much done, right? I just wanted to say, when I woke up this afternoon, because I didn't get to bed until like 4:35 or whatever it was, right? Because I was doing this stuff, right? Anyway, you know, this ringing in my ears and stuff, in the head and whatever, I woke up like 3 times in my sleep, and then finally by 12:30, I finally woke up. So I went to bed, we'll say 5:30, and then I woke up 3 times with the screaming in my ears and the pressure in my head. And then I finally got out of the bed at 12:30. And when I got out, seriously, people, for the first couple of hours, I felt like I had a fucking hangover, minus the throbbing headache. In terms of I was out all night dancing, partying, and just hooped, yeah. And I said to my kids when I got up right after, you know, I said, this is like, how did I say it? This is why I put on this camera while I'm doing this. It's like binge drinking. I said canning to me is like binge drinking. The way I felt when I got up today, oh, I felt like I had been binge drinking. Right? So, I'm not putting the gristle in, although you can. I might, if I do, I'll chop it up really, 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 really small and then just incorporate it in there, right? Because again, we want that congealing. But yeah, no, the reason I'm turning on the camera now is before I finish this video, I just wanted to mention that this is like binge drinking for me, I think, because when I got up this morning, I'm like, God, I feel like I have a freaking hangover, minus no throbbing headache from drinking all night and partying. You know? In my younger days, not that I did a lot of drinking and a lot of partying, because I didn't, but, you know, there's been the odd time when I overdrank too much, or maybe I danced too much, or whatever the hell it was, and I got up the next day and I'm like, oh, damn, right? So it's a good thing I don't binge drink, right? This is my binge drinking. This is how I binge drink, people. If you go back into my videos, you'll see, right, when the pressure in the house gets high, I bring out the pressure canner. And now that I've been using this one and cooking this stuff on between 2 and 3, right, on my stove, versus between 9 and, oh God, 8, 7.5, I'm like, what the hell was I cooking that salmon on? 200 pounds of pressure? Because by the time I finished done canning that salmon, there was no water left in the canner. right? Uncle John and I, we used to sit and just be on edge, right? Because I never started using a pressure canner until I moved into this house. I canned with the water bath and that type of thing, but I never used a pressure canner. So Uncle John encouraged me to try it. He sat here with me. We were ready for it to explode, and at the rate that I was going, it sounds like it was ready to go to the moon. With this one, the only thing that I don't like about this one is you have to get up every few minutes, unless of course you want to wait for it to get to 15 pounds, and then I guess it starts to jiggle, and then that's when you come back and you turn down the temperature. But I haven't gotten to that point first. I'm keeping it between 12 and 13. And by having to do that, I'm finding that I'm having to go back and forth every 5-10 minutes to either put it at 2 or bring it back up to 3. Sometimes bring it back up to 4. Try and hold it on 3. Then it starts crawling again. But all in all, the reason I bought it was so that it would be extra safe for Amari, right? In terms of if you're going to give more canned food to a baby, you want to make sure that it's right? So there. Now we got 4 chickens done. That's enough, I'm pretty sure, for 24 jars. So this stuff here, I'm not going to worry about the gristle right now. I don't have time. I am just going to put this all in there, and then the next I'm going to just suck on, because that's okay. I can do that. And then the rest of this stuff goes into a strainer like this, right? Can you see? Right? You get all that juice, all that gelatin. That's what you're wanting, right? That's what I'm wanting anyway. And, you know, it seems to be somewhat working with Amari, but the thing is, you want to have it more regular, which this is why I'm doing this, right? So when I get now the stock, so now I'm going to wash up, get all this stuff all washed up, wipe everything down, right? Leave this here for now, fill up the pot with the stock, get a different pot more than likely, and then, what do you call it? You can suck your fingers. That's so good. But I'm not one to suck my fingers, so, but it's tasty. And wash my hands, wipe everything down, and then I'm going to get the jars out. I'm going to wash them, get the stock going, put this back in the fridge while the stock is going, get the jars ready, fill up the jars, fill them up with the stock, and you get the gist of it, right? But I can't turn off this camera until I wash my hands. So maybe you'll see a ghost go by. Let me know if you do. For some reason, I feel like Shimei is with me today, hovering around, poking her nose in, wanting to learn. Because when I was doing the pickles and stuff like that, she was starting to show an interest, right? And took the time to actually help me with it so that she could start learning. And she was going to continue to do that with me, but we never got the opportunity. So I just feel like she's kind of hovering around me. So, you know, maybe something did go by. Okay, for the ones that don't know this, most people know this, but not everybody knows this, right? Anyway, sometimes my videos can get redundant because I repeat myself throughout them on certain subjects. So besides that point, so I'm not wanting so much that as I want the congealment. I want the fats. Yes, I do. I want this. Do you see this? This must be from the soup. This looks like, yeah, because I added extra carrot in there. Right, so this one I haven't done yet, right? This is all I have for stock here. So, but this one has its own taste because it sat for 2 days cooking on the stove. Plus I added the extra bones. You can see them there. The raccoons are going to love that. Then I threw in a couple of carrots and some celery. And it has more of a charred taste because it sat for so long. So I'm going to do that again and experiment with it. But in the meantime, this is stock from, I don't know, maybe that. Or somewhere else. I don't label these things just like I don't label my seeds. But do you see this? Now, if you really wanted to get creative... Oops, sorry. Back in the old days, when McDonald's French fries tasted really, really good, part of the reason for that, people, was because of this. They would use chicken grease, whether in liquid form, because once I melt that, what's going to happen to it? It's going to look like oil. So I think what I'm going to do in this case, just for fun, and we'll do an experiment. How about that? I am going to save this one. All the other ones I threw out. Right? But this time I'm going to save it. I'm going to take it all off. I'm going to save it. And then in the next couple of days, I'm going to put it in the fridge, right? And then in the next couple of days, I'm going to fry some French fries in it. And let's see what it tastes like. Okay? Just for fun. So in the meantime, I'm going to take... Okay, so you know what I'm going to do? So I'll be back. Hold on. Okay. So, as you can see, I have taken most of it off. I'm going to put that in the fridge with a cover over it. And in a few days from now, I'm going to fry potatoes in it in lengthwise as if it was a French fry. Okay? And in the meantime, if you see, this is what I want, people. Do you see how it's congealed? That's what I'm trying to give Amari. So I left a little bit there because over the heating process, especially in a pressure canner, this fat's going to incorporate even more into that, right? In terms of, you know, adding nutrients. That's not a lot of fat. And then, of course, you've seen, what do you call it? You've seen I left some of the skin on with the chicken, with the chicken, right? So now I'm going to heat this up, and then after it's heated, I don't think this little thing will go in there. Well, I got a different one. I'm going to put it in a different strainer, and then I'm going to dip it in so that all the juices and everything leak off that and let it drip out, and then it goes back in there, right? Hold on. Okay. So before I start washing jars and all that stuff, right, because now I'm going to get ready to can, these are, it appears to be chicken broth. I should have wrote it down, but I just, whatever, right? Because I made beef broth, bones, which actually might be in a different freezer, and I made chicken broth. This looks like chicken broth to me. Okay? Because I don't think I'm going to have enough chicken broth. Because the other pot in there has chicken in it, but no broth. Because I've already used it with all of that over there, right? This here may or may not be enough for what I'm going to use next with the cut up shredded chicken. So what I've done is I got into the deep freeze there and I pulled out these as chicken stock, and I also have a quart size, 1 or 2 quart size that I canned, like this size, that I canned in liquid form that's in my cupboard, right? So that, you know, I had extra chicken stock. Not so many kids around. Uncle John's not around. So I don't need to make such big soups anymore, and I didn't want to waste it, so I canned it. So I'm sure I have 1 to 2 more this size under my cupboard in terms of chicken stock if I need it. However, these ones came out of my freezer, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them unthaw, and that will be for the chicken at least for what's in the fridge, because there's 2 more chickens yet, right? If not, 1 or 2 or 3 of these in there, and then if I need to go hunt for more chicken stock, I can. Because my other alternative would be this. I don't know where it came from, but anyway, it's been kicking around forever. So, I'm looking at the ingredients. I don't know what dextrose is, but it has that. It says flavor, which could mean anything, right? And then it may contain sesame seed, milk, eggs, fish, crustaceans, shellfish, soy, wheat, mustard, which tells you that it's been processed in big vats that come in with big trucks that carry multiple different types of products that sometimes can cross-contaminate the foods that are being given to us through the food market, right? So I'm going to avoid that, and I'm going to do it this way. And as you can see, now it's starting to melt, right? I put that in there like that and go like this after as it gets heated up. And then after, I'm going to just let it drip to get off that jelly and get it into the pot. All right. Okay. Okay, so before this melts and incorporates into the juice itself, but do you see how rich that is, people? That is so rich. Look at that. You can see it, right? So, now we know why the concept of a universal school meal program wasn't really a big issue for me in terms of, sure, I like to promote that. I think that's something we need in our communities, which I do think we do. It's because I don't mind being in the kitchen, right? This is what I wanted for schools, only bigger pots, right? Okay, so that's what I'm going to do those chicken bits in. Okay, so anyway, do you see this? See what I've done? Now you take the spoon and you just squeeze it out. Right, so you get all of that good juice. Right? And then give it to the cats. And what the cats don't eat, the raccoons eat. And whoever's been creeping my yard lately, because somebody's been creeping my yard, if there's any leftover scraps, well, if the raccoons are kind enough to leave it behind, well, then you can eat that too, because I don't know who the fuck creeps people's yards, but besides that point, I'll show you another day, people, what I'm talking about. But for now, did you see what I did? So what I'm going to do, this is really, really tasty. Whoa. This is like really, 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 really tasty, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough for these jars. So, but this is taking too long to unthaw. So I'm probably going to have to wait for a little while. Right? Because I like the taste of this one. I can't remember what this tastes like. This is sweeter. This is sweet. It's cooked with a vegetable of some kind. But I can just top them off as they're unthawing. I don't want to lose that chicken flavor. Plus, so I guess I'm just going to have to leave that for that. And then this one, and if I need more, I've got that other stuff that I canned in a 1-quart jar from chicken stock that I made. What do you call it? You can see what's happening here, right? And I'll use that for the other 2 chickens in the fridge. Right. So, there we go. Okay, so it turns out I still have like two things of chicken. The one pot there, full of chicken that was boiled on the stove, and I guess the ones I baked in the oven. So that's probably, I've done, this is 4 chickens that I've done, and I still got 4 more, but I'm running out of broth. Because I'm trying to enrich the broth by bringing it down and making it so that when it gets cold, it can congeal, right? And it has all those nutrients. So as you can see, the broth is ready. As you can see what I've done, I just end up using chopsticks. That's what I use for this. So because the chicken is a little cold, and this is very hot, just take your time when you start to pour it from the ladle into here. Give it a chance, just a little bit at first, to warm up, right? Hold on. Okay, so I've already moved everything around with a little chopstick. As you can see, though, the bubbles are coming up on their own, coming up with the grease, right? So I'm just going to let it rest. Oh, that's what happens when you get tired. I'm just going to let it rest for a bit, people, and then I'm going to go like this. You see, I've already wiped the rims, right? Now, these are about a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch or so. I did that with the fish, right? And anyway, you're probably wondering how this could possibly be pre-Fukushima salmon if it was canned in 2016. And that's because the salmon itself was in my freezer, people. That's why. It was in my freezer. I bought it before Japan had those reactors blow their stack and put radiation into the environment. So that fish was actually caught by natives up on the shoreline, and it was in another store that was kind of like whatever. So I ended up buying like $50 worth, big bags, and I stuck them in my freezer, and they sat there, and I forgot about them, and then I was clearing out the freezer, I came across them, and I canned them, and that's why it's pre-Fukushima, because they were caught before Fukushima, but I didn't can them until 2016. So anyway, in the next couple of weeks or so, I'll open up one of these. I'll show you what I want to maybe think I can do with them. At the same time, I'll open up one of these, and we'll make, what do you call that? Potato burgers with salmon, right? So hold on. Okay, so they're all in the canner here now, 24 of them. So that's good. Half pints, if they were full pints, they'd have to be in there for at least 75 minutes. But it's meat, so if it was fish, they'd want 100 minutes. So we're going to go by a half pint, right, which was probably about 75 minutes. Better to be safe than sorry, right, people? So 75 minutes to at least 10 pounds pressure, but I'm doing 12, 13 pounds pressure. And then I didn't use this lid because, can you see, something's on it, it won't wash off. And then I didn't use this one either because it's already buckled, right? So just keep that in mind. Okay, so these are all done, right? Gave one to Tisha to try out with her boyfriend. And then I gave two separate jars, one with the sweet potato and the pork, and one with the peas and the pork. I mean, obviously there's sweet potatoes and everything in there, but it's just, there's a lot of peas in there, right? And then I left these three out for now, right, to work with Amari. Sorry. So now I have to find a place to put these things, people, so I can get these other jars going. I don't know if I'm going to can the rest of that chicken tonight because I'm kind of tired and I want to rest. Because after the canning, I'm going to have to get outside, right? So hold on. Okay, so I am going to end this video right now. You can see it's still bubbling. Just took it out of the canner. So that's 24 jars of primo chicken. Even at $2 a can, if I did $2 a can, whoops, $48. If I did $3 a can, depending on where you buy it, I suppose $72 it would have cost me. And these are bigger than a can, like, you know, little cans like a tuna can. You know, when you get canned chicken that way. I mean, it can go up to $3 in a store, right? So anyway, and I bought, 8 chicken. We'll round it off at $80, $10 a chicken because it was 30% off. I didn't do the math yet, right? I think they were between $12 and $14. I was picking around the $14 ones, right? So $10 each. So I've already half of my money, and I've still got 2 things of chicken in the fridge yet that need to be done yet, right? So hold on. I'm going to upload this now, and then tomorrow I'll upload whatever I do tomorrow.